Hi, welcome to GM Prep with me, Mark. Um, this is for Blades in the Dark, and I am going to be talking about what I, as the GM, have planned for my players in our next game, which is happening this Saturday, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, on Twitch. Or it'll be up on YouTube later in the week, whenever I get around to it. But if you want to watch it live, Twitch, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, Saturday. Couple points of business right up the front. Number one, this contains spoilers. If you haven't watched the other episodes, this will A, not mean anything to you, or B, ruin your enjoyment of the whole thing. There are no in betweens. You are either of those two things. So go back and watch those other things if you don't want spoilers. Two, you may notice I have a shiny new webcam. Look at that beautiful picture. Look at it. Look how wide it is. Look how you can see every square inch of my bookshelf. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it won't crash on me like it normally wants to do. And the third piece of business is my heater may come on while I'm recording this, and it's really, really loud, but it's also 8 degrees outside, so I'm not turning it off. So apologies if there's, a bunch of loud noises that happen at some point during this. I hopefully have my mic set up to adjust for those things, but the heater is really loud, so I think it's going to overcome that compensation. But like I said, I'm not turning it off. Fuck you. It's cold. All right. So, if you watched the last session, you know that my players escaped from Elstera Avrothi's house. Actually, they didn't escape. They got transported along with some other bodies that they identified as lampblack bodies to a church facility. And they also saw Preceptor Dunville there collecting bodies. What was he doing with them, I wonder? I wonder. If only there were some PCs who could investigate things. If only. No, my players didn't do any investigation of the situation that they awoke in. They just ran away. So they didn't get how that whole thing connected to whatever's happening. It did connect. If you've been paying attention to these GM prep things, you can probably figure out the general strokes of how that happened. I didn't actually really have any, particular thing like that they were supposed to discover. Just the fact that Dunville was there. If they'd gone upstairs up to the church, then I would have frantically tried to think of something. No, I actually had a basic idea in the back of my head what was happening, but they didn't do that, so no big deal. They can find all that stuff out later. So it's been a little while since we've done one of these, and that's just because of the switch to Saturday instead of Thursday. That was made because we usually game on Saturdays. We usually alternate games. So there's usually 2 people running at a time. And one of the other games ended, and the person who was supposed to run decided that he didn't have the time. So we just moved this game over to there because it's a lot more convenient. And now that I have a job and stuff, just middle of the week doesn't always work that great, but it did mean that we skipped a week and a couple days in there. And so sorry about that. Hopefully we'll be straight going forward. However, let's look at the calendar, because here's the thing. This Saturday, or last Saturday, if you're watching this late. No, I don't know how that works. This upcoming session will be on Saturday. And then I will run again in 2 weeks, which will actually put us at December 23rd. So probably means I won't have anybody here to game, it being Christmas and all. So there probably will not be a game then. I do not know everyone's schedules, but I am just assuming right now it's the holidays. The 23rd is not going to be good. So there may actually be a month between these episodes. And of course, if I'm not running on the 23rd, that probably means I won't do GM prep Thursday before. So you may have to wait a month for those too. Sorry, it's the holidays. It always happens. It kills gaming. So yeah, I think that's the big business is the fact that I am running soon, but then I probably won't be for a month. So these videos may be short, and you may not be seeing much, at least for Blades, for a month. I hope I remember what I'm doing when I get back. And that's only sort of a joke, because I tend to have a terrible memory when it comes to games, which is why I've got this handy notebook that I've written stuff down in. So, all right. Yeah, our PCs, they went, they escaped. And instead of going to the plot that they were going to go to, which was actually going to be dealing with some parishioners, if you remember, I don't remember his name, Cardera. Elder Cardera, they had a job to convince some of his parishioners to not become hollows in the church. They were going to do that. I had all that prepped. But then they took a whole lot of injuries, and their infirmary rolls, their healing rolls, turned out okay, but they were still kind of wounded afterwards. So they quickly shifted focus and decided to take over an infirmary instead. So there went all of my careful prep. Nah, it's okay. I mean, it turned out okay. I still had to, run off the fly. And in fact, here, I can give you a super in-depth GM detail stuff. So while they were planning to take over this infirmary, which I arbitrarily decided, that was controlled by the Lamplax. So, of course, the next step is for them to choose, how they're going to approach it, the approach for their job. And while they were discussing it, they were originally talking about, going and convincing the doctor to come work for them. So while they were doing that, I'm rolling some dice over here in the corner secretly, looking up some random charts and deciding who this doctor is. What is it going to take to convince them? What type of personality do they have? Blah, 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 blah. So we can have a full fun adventure. And then they changed their approach near the end and decided that they were just going to steal all the supplies and stuff because they already had a doctor and they didn't need one. Because Edwin has doctoring. I forget what the actual ability is called, but he's got doctoring. So even my improvisational GM prep just went out the window. So that infirmary takeover may have not been the most exciting thing that could have ever happened. It may not have been all that exciting even if they went with their original plan. It may have just been like 2 rolls or something to convince this doctor to come work for them. I don't know. We never got to that. But I definitely know it could have been more interesting if I'd had a little bit more time to think about it. That's, one of the issues with these play to find out sort of games. But honestly, that can happen in any game. You've got the adventure plan north and the PCs go south. What do you do? In my particular case, I rolled some random charts and looked at the book real quick and made up some NPCs and rolled with the punches. And that one turned out kind of funny, or at least sort of funny. Timothy convinced them that they were supposed to move them and even got the guys to help them load up the stuff into the boat. And that was just, good rolling on his part and my inability to think of devil's bargains or complications. Oh my God, why is that so hard? Why is that so hard? And yeah, and they also, and the one who was in charge was named Henner, who's the lieutenant of the Lamplax, and he was utterly convinced and helped them load up their boats and basically helped them steal in their own infirmary from them. Uh my prediction is that he is now dead. Um, as I said in the session, he shook their hand and with thus signed his death warrant. Because yeah, Bazo Baz, leader of the Lamplax, is not going to take kindly to that, especially when he finds out that it was Timothy who stole shit from him, because he is not friends with Timothy. That is what happened in the last session. Now, what does that mean for further sessions, for next session? I'll be honest, I have no idea. I have no idea. I'm just completely lost about where they're going. I've got an entanglement still to throw at them because they did finish their last job and there is an entanglement. I did previously roll it and I had it sitting there just waiting for the opportunity to present itself. But it did involve, I will tell you now, it did involve Bazo Baz. So that's probably even more important now that that entanglement kick off. Yeah, so I'm not sure what else there is to talk about, which is a little inconvenient when you're staring into a video camera recording a video. But there were a couple things I wanted to mention. So they've obviously made enemies with the Red Sashes and had quite a bit of dealings with the Red Sashes. So I definitely wanted to throw in the Lamplax as a counter to them, especially since my PCs were sort of going for the, we work in higher echelons and we manipulate people, They went after the ink rakes and then they were planning to like plant stories in the newspaper, to get their enemies to do certain things or whatever. So they're obviously trying to, manipulate events more than just steal shit. So I really thought throwing the Lamplax in and throwing those tiny little Lamplax hooks that I did, this entanglement coming up, the fact that the infirmary was owned by the Lamplax, the fact that they were dead cargo with Lamplax taking to the church, all of that was supposed to point them towards the Lamplax as either an ally or, a wedge, a counter, a lever that they could move to influence the Red Sashes. I haven't done that yet. I don't know if they ever will. But that's the reason that I started throwing in all this Lamplax stuff, was just sort of as a counter to the Red Sashes. If they wanted to, yes, they could go attack the Red Sashes and fail, succeed, whatever. But I did want to throw in, the other option of, hey, there's this other gang that's already enemies with the Red Sashes. Maybe you could work with them. Maybe you could, tell them where the secret Red Sash base is. I don't know. Whatever they want to do with that. I haven't done much with it other than just stealing the Lamplax infirmary, which definitely will probably not make them allies. So that option's probably off the table. But other than that, I don't know exactly where they're headed. That's obviously a situation. They've still got this job from Eldar Cardera, and I will probably, I'm thinking maybe roll to figure out another potential job from quests. Just because they did actually successfully complete that last job. Even though it went horribly awry for them, they got stabbed multiple times, they got thrown into a barge with a bunch of dead bodies, and then got gotten rid of. But they still technically succeeded at that job. They did find out that Alstera did not have the artifact, and that's what Pendrin wanted to know. So they did get paid, and they got heat and all that other stuff from that. But that was a successful job, so I may come up with another job that quests may want them to go on. I'm leaving that one nebulous for right now, just because I think there's enough material as far as like the previous job they have from Elder Cardera, um, some red sash lamp black stuff that could happen with entanglements. Um, we'll see. The other thing that I think will take up time next session, which isn't really my goal to fill time, but I don't know. That's often how I think of GMing in some ways is, how long will this scene last? An hour? Okay, so I should probably come up with a couple more scenes. um, these predictions are usually wildly off because players are players and they will, spend the next 3 hours arguing, or they'll just immediately agree and then go right to the thing that I wasn't prepared for them to go to. For instance, taking over an infirmary. But I don't know. That is an interesting way to think of GMing that I do sometimes is just, how much this material that I've prepped, how much of it is actually, how long is it going to take? I find that I tend to fall back on that when I'm not sure what to do in games. Usually if I've got, a plot or an obvious, next step, then I will just, sit there and prep notes for that thing and then just do it. And then you're like, oh, yeah, the session's over. Okay. But if I don't know what to do, sometimes I do sit there and think, okay, well, I could do this and that'll take half an hour. And then I could do that and that'll take an hour. And then, okay. In this particular case, I don't think I need to do that because the other thing I think that is going to happen next session is there's actually going to be an extra player. An extra player. So if you watched this whole series, then you know that there were actually 4 PCs, and yet for every single session, we've had 3. That 4th player is supposed to be joining us. He was supposed to be there last time, but he wasn't. We shall see. But throwing another person into the mix, especially with what has already happened, they'll have to not necessarily catch him up, but he'll have his own viewpoints, his own ideas that will create more discussion. So, don't know. I think we're pretty good though. If they do go with the Elder Cardera job, I think that's probably a session. They're actually looking at downtime again up at the front. So who knows what they decide to do there. And in fact, let's go to the clocks. Because those are always fun to look at. So we've still got the Spirit Wardens one in Crowsfoot. I did actually think about checking it up last time. But then, see? The red sashes are transporting their dead, the lampblacks that they're killing, to a different district to throw the Spirit Wardens off. So I actually didn't do anything with that one. And that's the reason that one hasn't moved any, because I had to come up with some weird way to quote save the PCs. And that's just all part of the planning of the red sashes. So that one hasn't ticked up any. It could. The lampblacks are not being that careful as far as like my thoughts on the matter right now. So it could still tick up from their work. The PCs could still obviously tick it up. We'll see what happens there. Then, of course, we've got the ink rake search, and they've got one more pie piece on there. Hey, what do you think is going to happen next session? I didn't have them roll any last time to see if they could get away from the ink rake searching for them. And that was because, well, honestly, I just wanted to get them, back to their base and then go from there. And then they went after this infirmary thing, and it just, my brain was trying to think of stuff for infirmary, and I just didn't think about the ink rakes thing and didn't think it wouldn't even mattered, because I still would have just said, okay, well, it ticks up. And then next adventure, something happens with that. So guess what? This coming adventure, something's probably going to happen with that, because I'm going to go back to making them roll when they're moving around town. What exactly is going to happen with that? I don't know. I haven't decided. Still haven't quite decided. It's gonna be a newspaper thing, like an expose into the gangs of Six Towers or something like that. The PCs were smart, and they actually did pick up a secure base or layer. Their layer was already hidden, which the ink rakes were trying to break through, but now it's secure. Um, so the ink rakes were probably not going to attack them just straight out, but they could have, for instance, alerted the red sashes, and the red sashes could have come and had a big fight. But now that'll be more difficult with the secure base, secure layer. So we'll see what happens with that. It could be interesting. Could be. So yeah, ink rakes, we got them happening still, and that will probably happen next session. I don't think Edlin has any clocks. Let's take a look. He's still got those Colburn papers, but he is not very far along on those, so that will probably not make a big difference. Although it does have some interesting information, perhaps, for them. I definitely don't think he's got any. Nope, he doesn't. And let's see. How about Bond? Bond has the ink rakes and their paper, which isn't going to play into the ink rake searching for them. That actually back to the other plot with Elstera and Penderin and Dunville, and I think that's it. So yeah, those are the clocks. Doesn't look like there's that many, so there's not a whole bunch to prep in that regard. What else? What else? Let me stare at my notes for a second. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, so let me explain the Elstera thing, just in case you're curious. Why she didn't kill them, what, and that sort of thing. So I talked about this a little bit on the last GM prep too, but her intention was not, she doesn't care who broke into her house necessarily. She just wanted to know who hired them. She found that out, whatever. Kill them, wipe them out. It doesn't matter. She doesn't care. The Red Sashes also pretty much, they care, but they're far more interested in, gaining than necessarily just killing some enemies. Or at least that was the way I was thinking about it. Mylara and Elstera are not in cahoots, but they are definitely working together. So my thought there was that Elstera just, had a good option. She, has all these contacts. She's always looking to cash in favors to get more favors. That's actually what the very first adventure was her getting a favor from someone. So I just thought, it makes sense for her to go get another favor. And so that was why the bodies got turned over to Dunville. It was basically just her getting a favor from Dunville. That plays into her, trying to manipulate things. It plays into the Dunville plot a little bit just because it was there to remind people. And of course, it ties into the Penderin thing because Penderin wanted to kill Dunville, and Dunville's not dead. Speaking of, guess what? Dunville's still not dead. I actually did not make a clock for his actual plot, but that's because I was just going to throw it in whenever I couldn't think of anything else to do. At this point, I don't think it's going to be triggering next because I don't want to throw way too many things at them, like ink rakes and whatever their next mission is, maybe that Cardera one, and Dunville. But it's coming up pretty shortly, I think, where Dunville's plan is going to come to fruition, actually. And he's going to do stuff, and maybe it'll be cool. I don't actually know. I do know his basic idea, but like the specifics of it, I'm not really sure. I've just sort of playing that by ear, seeing which way the PCs go and whatnot. So far, they've just kind of ignored him. So they haven't really given me any guidance necessarily about how that would work out. But we shall see. We shall see. So I think that's it for GM Prep this time. If I don't talk to you in 2 weeks on Thursday, then have a Merry Christmas. And if I do talk to you in 2 weeks, have a Merry Christmas also. Have a Merry Christmas twice. Or I'll tell you that you will have a Merry Christmas twice. I don't know. Yeah, so I think that's it. Thanks for joining me. Remember, you can always follow us on Twitter to find out when we are going live on Twitch. That's at That Call Podcast. Of course, you can follow us on Twitch and be friends and, make comments and the thing. What do you call that? A chat room? Yeah. You can join the chat room and talk to us on Twitch there at That Call Podcast. And of course, we've got a Facebook page. We've also got a Patreon. Thank you for your generous donations. Those of you who have generously donated, and those of you who have not generously donated, will have a Merry Christmas. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's it. And then obviously the YouTube channel too is always here for if you can't join us live and you want to catch up later. So thanks for the comments and thanks for watching. Good night.